Okay, so let me put it a different way. If I suspect I'm in the presence of an IN, and again, then I get all excited because it's been so great to talk. They're just, again, you people, yeah, whatever. I'll tend to want to get it, I'll want to engage them, and I want to find out what's going on in their very, very interesting minds. And so I will proceed to ask the right questions. In that, and one thing I will do, here's something that I do semi-consciously. It's kind of, yeah, it's semi-conscious. It's conscious, but it comes very naturally also, is I push it with them. When I think I'm dealing with an IN, what I'll do to kind of establish a little bit of a bridge to them, or begin building one, and it's really fun. And of course, it just fits naturally with my own, my own inclinations and talents and characteristics and whatever. But I will take my obvious unconventionality, and then I'll push it even further, right? In conversation, I will say very cheeky things and very strange things, which are coming out of me anyway, quite often. I can't even help it. But I will intentionally go too far. Like, what would be way too far with S's? They would hate it. They would back away from me slowly, or worse. I will push it because I know I'm pretty good at this point at guessing when I'm in. At least it doesn't take much to figure out when I'm in the presence of an IN. It's just, it gets maybe a little more tricky to figure out which kind of one. But if I can ascertain that I'm dealing with an IN, I'll push it because it serves all kinds of functions, right? First of all, I love to do that. It comes naturally. It's maybe going to happen anyway. It's going to happen anyway. And in my experience, a lot of INs like that because they're like, oh, it gets their interest. They're like, oh, because again, usually they're looking out at the world and just thinking, oh, wow, people are fucking boring. People are so boring. I don't like, or maybe they're not boring, but they're just, I don't have that much, I got other things on my mind basically. And it's a lot of energy to try and get to know people. And there are all these, each type has all of its own reasons to disincentives to letting other people in more and sharing of themselves. But if a weirdo comes along and starts posing and a weirdo who is genuinely interested in them and is like really like, genuinely interested and engaged and wants to know them and wants to play with them, and then establishes a possibility that maybe it's a good idea to see if maybe you can trust this person because they are so obviously weird. And they're not, it's not somebody who's trying to get something from you because someone from whom you can gather the intention that what they're trying to get from you really is you. It's interest. They really are genuinely interested in you, and that's what and ENFPs. Again, we're not alone in this, not for sure, but we will be doing that. That's how we are. That is what we're interested in the world, very highly, among other things. But that's a big one, huge one. So. With our unconventionality, we're going to ask odd questions and meaningful questions and questions that go right to the heart of things, or we'll try. That's what we're trying to do for various reasons. So that has to be appealing, in the French root sense of that word as an appeler, to call to someone. So that calls to them. But here's an interesting thing. That works very well with the other three INs. It does not necessarily work well at all with the INFJ. And that's because the FE is in the way. Big time. Big time. Now, not to say that's a bad thing. I'm just saying from my perspective of my objectives of trying to get in there, I can't. The FA is in between. And I get the sense that for some INFJs, I think sometimes the INFJ loneliness is that that's like it's like a real part, of course it's an authentic, real part, an integral part, super incredibly important part of every INFJ. But maybe sometimes that's where an INFJ will feel a conflict, or will feel sort of not like all the results of that combo of the auxiliary function of FE with the dominant function, or the rest, because the FE, which is still part of the self, but it's a kind of impersonal part of the self, and compared to some of the other things that could be in that slot. And, because of its outward focus and its rule focus, it can't let us in, and it can't let you out sometimes, I think. Because the drive of FE is to make everybody comfortable. So, and to facilitate everything going on the outside, and to sort of, in other words, to be the self is to abnegate the self, but it is the self, but it's abnegate, anyway, I'm sure you get it. Sorry. I'm sure you fucking get that. Sorry. So here's the thing. So when I sort of make my appeals to establish contact, some kind of real interesting contact with the other 3 IN types, they can come out and play quite easily, because there are no functions in the way of that. There's nothing there's no, it's a much simpler thing for them to come out and connect with me, I think. Whereas with INFJ, not that I assume that this is always the case or whatever, but the thing with INFJ is that the auxiliary function, because of its qualities and what it does, and then its prominence within INFJ being high up there in the auxiliary, it means that it's like it's like that function itself is an interface. It's like it's fencing. It's that which is pathless, others, your dominant function is super mysterious, blah, 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 super complex functions issue has to go through this other one. It's like the conduit for that. But it can also be, I think, please tell me later. Please tell me what you think of this, because I think, I really want to know what you think. But I think it must make it much more difficult for some INFJs. I bet you sometimes INFJs would like, just the way, like not just the way, but sort of in the way in my ENFP, I don't know if you ever saw it, but in my ENFP series, I talk about sort of what strange bedfellows FI auxiliary and NE dominant is, in that they're quite often at odds with one another. And I wonder if INFJ finds themselves at odds with their FE, their NI and the rest, versus the FE auxiliary. Not versus it. That's a bit weird, but I don't think that's quite what I mean. But I'll bet you sometimes the INFJ wants to come out and play and wants to connect and feels lonely, but the FE prevents it. It makes it kind of I don't know. That's the wrong word too. I'm going to have to work on this. I'm going to have to sort of think this through some more to figure that out. Figure out even what I want to say about it. But yeah, it seems like it could be, it changes it. And here's the thing. So let's go back to where this sort of thing came from. I was thinking about this side-by-side comparison with INTJ and INFJ, and I realized that the INTJ is ever so much easier to get close to. It's ever so much easier to know, because they have FI and they have the TE. So because they don't have FE, that's what it maybe more is like. They don't have FE. So it's much more whizzy-widgy with the INTJ. Now, again, and if you don't have even the first key, if you can't even get past the first door, the first wall, to getting closer tonight, which is just to be interesting for them, But let's say you are interesting, and that gets you through the door to a certain extent. The thing is, with the INFJ, they can just keep recessing and recessing and recessing because of the FE stuff going on, because the FE is managing you, right? And as long as the FE is doing what it's supposed to do, in its powerful position, which is manage you and manage everybody else, you're not getting in there, you know, you kind of can't.